Hey everyone, Chubby here and welcome back to another simulation here on Football Manager 2019, showcasing some of the potential managers that Manchester United may be able to take up at the end of this season. Now this one is all about Eddie Howe. Now this young British manager has been linked with a lot of big jobs, but he's never really been given that final opportunity. And some people say that he might get this one. He was 4th in the overall betting when I put this list together, so it'll be interesting to see where he is now when things have changed a little bit. But looking at his stats, he's pretty all-round. Nothing amazing, but no weaknesses either, which is pretty good. Of course, as Bournemouth so far, he's done fantastically well to get them to where they have been and to where they're going now. But I feel like he may have taken Bournemouth as far as Bournemouth can possibly go. I mean, they've been getting that mid-table in the Premiership now consistently for a few seasons, so I think for himself, it might be time to make that jump. But is this the opportunity he needs? And will he make anything of the opportunity? But without further ado, let's get straight to the end of the first season and see how he does in his first big chance. Holy crap, he only went and did it. First season, Eddie Howe wins the Premiership by 11 clear points. 30 wins out of 38 games. That is massive. Spurs finishing 2nd, Liverpool in 3rd, Man City down in 4th, Chelsea in 5th, Arsenal, Burnley in 6th, okay, and Arsenal down in 7th. But Eddie Howe, man, take a bow. A bow? Take a bow, even. Let's have a look at the transfers for last season then. Ignore these seasons, right? So he picked up Christian Pavon, which is a good signing. Somebody I like to buy in my Football Manager. Nice cheap option. Played 31 games, got 2 goals as well. Only cost £12 million. Then Bruno Fernandes from Sporting Lisbon. Again, another good player. Only played 8 games though for Man United last season. He's a pretty good player. 24 years old. He's got a lot ahead of him. Falque. Spanish player. Not played very often for Spain, has he? 0 caps for Spain. Only 12 games and 4 goals for Man United last season as well. I feel like he may have just really boosted the squad up rather than anything massive. And Mario Gaspar, only 10 appearances as well. So these 3 players did come in at the end of January, so that sort of explains why the lack of appearances. Maybe a full season this season, it might be very good for them. But Pavon played a lot of games and did very, very well, didn't he? Wow, still stunned by winning the Premiership first season. Let's see how things went on in the other competitions then. So they drew Barcelona in the Champions League and beat them 2-1 away. Lost to Liverpool in the EFL Cup first round, or third round even. PSV, Celtic, Barcelona. Oh, they won 5 out of 6 games, including beating Barcelona home and away. Goals from Rashford and Lingard in that one. And goals from Rashford and Pogba in that one. Okay. So what else happened? FA Cup. 3rd round beating against Stoke. 4th round they beat Villa. Champions League knockout stage, they absolutely hammered Lyon and beat Everton in the FA Cup 5th round before losing to Man City on penalties. Just like Marco Rose struggled against City, didn't he? Champions League quarter-finals, beat Juventus 3-1 on aggregate. Semi-finals, beat Bayern 3-2 on aggregate. They're into the final. They lost in the final to Real Madrid. Wow, Eddie Howe, first season in charge of Man United, wins the Premiership and is the beaten finalists in the Champions League. What a fantastic first season. I'd take that. I'd take that all day long. Wow, I mean, look at this run here from from the 30th of March all the way through till the 4th of June. That 2-1 win against West Ham, 2-0 away at Man City, 2-0 away at Southampton, 1-0 win at Juventus, 3-2 win at home to Liverpool, 2-1 win away to Juventus, 3-2 away to Brighton, 2-1 away at Wolves, 3-1 away at Munich, and 4-0 at home to Leicester. That run there was immense. And then look at this run of victories here as well. Eddie Howe, man, you've done so well in this team. It's unbelievable how good this is. Wow. I'm absolutely stunned by how good that was. Well, that's the end of season number 1. Can Eddie Howe mimic that in season number 2? That's going to be the big question. Is it just a one-off? Is it a lucky season? Or can he prolong this? Let's have a look. He's only gone and bloody done it again, hasn't he? 2 wins from 2 seasons. This time a clear 14 points. 88 goals scored is massive, including 9 against Blackburn. Wow. Only lost 3 games and they were Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea. Southampton pulled 2 draws out of Man United this season. That's pretty good for them. But again, just a cracking season. City finishing 2nd, Spurs in 3rd, Arsenal 4th, Liverpool 5th, Chelsea 6th, and then Burnley in 7th place on another good season. But again, just an absolute cracking season, wasn't it? Absolutely stunning. Let's have a look at the transfers then. Right. A lot more this year. £292 million spent. That is huge. But £152 million in as well. I'll have that in a second. First of all then, Lucas Digne from Everton. Played 31 games. Pretty solid left back. Probably playing alongside Luke Shaw as well. Then 41 million on Carlos Soler from Spain. Played 27 games last season. So they paid 41. He's now worth 65. So that was a good deal, obviously, wasn't it? Maximiliano Gomez, Uruguayan, 23 years old, played 23 games, scored 10 goals. Can't motor that, can you, really? Worth 43 now. They're paid 16 for him, so making a hell of a profit on these players. Federico Chiesa from Fiorentina, the biggest deal they've made so far. 32 games, 3 goals from him. He's worth 65 million now, and they're paid 73 for him, so not a massive difference. Dayot Upamecano, a player we were looking to buy years ago when he first popped up at RB Leipzig, or sorry, Red Bull Salzburg, should I say at the time. £60 million he's worth now. Paid 32 games last season. They paid 38 million for him. 37 million when came in for Akanji, another centre back, Swiss this time. Played 8 games last season. He was only purchased in January though. Skiglio, who's a pretty useful player, can play down both sides. Paid 40 million for him in January as well. He played 14 games. And Hugo Mallow, £21 million. It's now worth 41. Looks like he's had a pretty good time. Wait, he's only played 3 games, and his value's gone up by that already. That's shocking, really, isn't it? So a lot of players came in this season. Did a massive amount of difference. Right, then sales-wise, Borthwick Jackson went, no surprises. Fred to Valencia for 27 million, possibly up to 40. Phil Jones to Arsenal. Wow, they ripped Arsenal off something chronic. If Man United got £34 million for Phil Jones, I'd personally drive him to the stadium myself, to be honest with you. And who else made a go? Valencia to Lazio for under £1 million. Jesse Lingard left for 55 million to Arsenal. Rojo to Sassuolo for 7.25. Falco, then he brought last season, left for 27 million. And that was it then. Mason Greenwood out on loan, as was Andrew Gomez as well. Interesting. A real big, so free transfers as well. Juan Mata and Andres Pereira are the 2 big names there, aren't they? It's interesting how they've done that then. They've made a big, real change this season, and it was effective, like I said, as they won the Premiership for a 2nd season running. But they lost in the Community Shield. They got Dortmund, Lyon and PAOK in the Champions League. And they got a win in the EFL Cup 2nd round there. EFL Cup 3rd round, or 4th round even. Looks like they're going to qualify for the group stages as well. They should do. It's been pretty tricky so far, actually. They've lost. They drew 1-1, lost. They should have gone through, to be honest with you. EFL Cup quarterfinals against Hull, they got a win. FA Cup 3rd round against Rotherham, they won again. Got Rotherham in the EFL Cup 3rd round and the FA Cup 3rd round. That's interesting. Sheffield United in the semi-final 1st leg and in the 2nd leg. Both won. They got knocked out the Champions. No, they didn't get knocked out the Champions League. FA Cup 4th round, they won. EFL Cup 5. Oh no, they beat Liverpool, so they won the EFL Cup this year. They also did well in the Champions League. No, they lost on away goals. Did they go? No, they won 1-0 at home, and they lost 2-1 away. Which means that Man United should go through on away goals. I'm pretty sure they would do, yeah. And they won the FA Cup as well, before losing 2-0 to Leicester in the 6th round. That's 6th round. That's pretty bad, isn't it? Champions League quarter-finals then beat Spurs 3-1 the 1st leg, drew 1-1 in the 2nd. Then into the semi-finals, beat Atletico Madrid 3-0 in the 1st leg, drew 1-1 in the 2nd leg. Right, Eddie, I'm going to scroll. You're on for a treble here. You won the Premiership, you won the EFL Cup, and you won the Champions League! Wow, Eddie Howe! Wow, Eddie Howe, 1-0 win. Federico Chiesa, the £75 million striker, purchased got a goal against Barcelona. And there we go. They won the Premiership 2 years in a row. They've won the charity. They didn't win the charity. They won the EFL Cup, and now they've won the Champions League. Eddie Howe, man, if this is what you've got in the locker, why is no one taking you sooner than this? This is massive. But the one problem we've got here is how is he going to keep this up? He can't keep doing this every season. But let's get to the end of season number 3 and see just if he can. I suppose I doubt it. I really do. But let's give him a go. Holy hell, he's done it again. 3 years on the trot, he's won the Premiership. This time only by 4 points, a lot more closer this year, but still, 3 years on the trot, he's won the Premiership. Eddie Howe. How? Just Howe in general. Right, transfers. Let's have a look at who he brought in. He brought in Rodrigo Bentancur for £83 million. Played 35 games, scored 6 goals. That's massive, that is. 50 million for Suso. Yeah, he used to play for Liverpool. Played 19 games, scored twice last season. Sergi Roberto from Barcelona. Played 30 games, scored 3 goals. Pretty decent central midfielder, cost them 46 million. 44.5 million for Munir, who I'm surprised has cost that much, to be honest. But then again, 5 goals in 20 games. That's not the best return. Depends where they're playing. If he's playing out wide, then yeah, you know. Pablo Maffio, another right back, 17 games, 1 goal for him. A decent amount of transfers. Whoa, whoa, that is a lot of money. A lot of money. Real Madrid paid £180 million for Paul Pogba. That is insane. I've never seen that much money before in this game. That's such a huge amount. Also, Gribbin went out for £500,000. Ander Herrera left on loan. Free transfers, nobody massive. Sergio Romero left for £3.5 million. Ayu Toure for 99k. But 180 million, that could be the big difference though. Losing a player of that ability could be the big difference, and it could make things a lot more difficult for him next season. 180 million! Right, what happened then? So they won the Community Shield, they won the UEFA Super Cup. Into the Champions League, they got Ajax, Juventus and Schalke, which it looks like they're going to get through that pretty easily as well. EFL Cup, 1-0 victors there. 1-0 victors there as well. Lost in the EFL Cup quarter-finals though to Fulham. World Club Championships, they beat Club America and after extra time 2-1 before beating Flamengo in the finals 2-0. Looks like they got through the Champions League okay. FA Cup then comes along, 3-1 win over Fulham and a 4-0 win over Swansea. This is the big one here, look. From Boxing Day through to the end of through to the 21st of February, they won every game. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games in a row won. And the game they lost was the FA Cup 5th round against Spurs. Beating Galatasaray then the first knockout stage. Get Atletico Madrid in the quarterfinals, again another win. Barcelona in the semi-finals, again another win. And they beat Real Madrid in the finals! Wow. Holy crap. So again, they've done it. Again, this season then. So they've won 3 Premierships now, 2 Champions Leagues, they've won the EFL Cup, they've won the World Club Championships, and they've won a Community Shield. They've won everything under Eddie Howe apart from the FA Cup. This is insane. Eddie Howe, I've never seen anyone do this well on this game before. Even I can't do this well on this game. Even cheating, I can't do this well on this game. Eddie Howe, man, you're just... Ugh. Let's see if his stats have gone up as a manager then. I feel like they have a bit, yeah. Not nothing major, but they have gone up a bit. Definitely these ones, man management, motivating, have gone up, and these have gone up a bit as well. He's having an absolutely cracking time here. His reputation's gone from 3 stars up to 4.5 stars in the couple of seasons he's been going, and I'm stunned by how well he's doing. I really am. So let's give him another year and see how he gets on season number 4. Let's just call it 4 years in a row, shall we? For the 4th season in a row, Eddie Howe has won the Premiership with Manchester United. This time only by a sole point. But still, they've won nonetheless. Arsenal in 3rd, Liverpool 4th, Spurs in 5th, Chelsea in 6th, and Wolves in 7th this time. It's just insane how well they're doing, isn't it? It's 4 Premierships on the trot. Let's see the transfers then, see who they got in to replace Mr. Pogba. No one. They didn't bring in a single player that season. Okay. But they sold Gaspar, Desciglio, and a Herrera. That's interesting. They didn't bring in a single player that season. That's nothing in the summer and nothing in January as well. That's really strange. Not seen that in this game before. Maybe they didn't think they needed it, maybe. Right, here we go. So what happened then? So they got Chelsea, they won the Community Shield. They also won the UEFA Super Cup again. They got Galatasaray, Napoli and Shakhtar. A very, very nice group to get. They won the EFL Cup 3rd round against Bolton before losing on penalties to Watford. They won all 6 of their Champions League group stage games. They also got a victory in the FIFA World Club Cup as well, defeating Club America in the semis once again before beating Corinthians in the final. FA Cup 3rd round and 4th round were easily won. Knockout stage of the Champions League, they knocked out PSG, which is a big one. They won 2-1 against Chelsea in the Champions League 6th round. Beat Man City in the semi-finals. This has been a very difficult Champions League, isn't it? West Ham, Oxford, Chelsea, Man City. Got Napoli again in the knockout stage, beat them. They're on for a treble, you know. They got knocked out of the Champions League semi-finals by Spurs. Oh, gutted. Absolutely gutted. And they lost the FA Cup final to Liverpool. Wow. Okay, well, it's not a terrible season. It's a disappointing one to get knocked out the semi-finals of the Champions League and get knocked and lose the final of the FA Cup to Liverpool is pretty disappointing. But still, they still won the Premiership and got to the semi-finals of the Champions League and the final of the FA Cup. But it was so close to that ever-looming treble. If he pulls off the treble, that would make him an absolutely outstanding manager. But there we go. That is the end of season number 4. Let's head on to the end of season number 5 and see if he can get back on top of European football. Right, the end of season number 5. The first time in Eddie Howe's Man United career he did not win the Premiership because mainly there was an incredibly dominant Manchester City. I mean, 89 points. Could have been enough to win the Premiership in previous seasons. However, Manchester City winning 33 out of their 38 games. You're not going to catch that, I'm afraid. It's just too strong, Man City. Still second place, though. Not bad at all. Liverpool in 3rd, Arsenal 4th, Spurs in 5th, and Chelsea down in 8th place. They've had a shocker this season. Wolves getting that 6th place, and Everton in 7th. Right, let's check out the old transfers then. See what they did this season. What am I going to? I'm lost. There we go. Right, so they brought in... Wow. First of all, Alexander Golovin, 121 million from Monaco. Not quite sure he's worth that much, but still a very effective player. 26 games, 4 goals. I think that might be really overpaid, you know. Lovro Major from Spurs, 35.5 million. Now worth 58 million apparently, so that was a good deal. 11 goals from 31 appearances. That's not bad at all. 50 million for Lewis Cook. Again, probably overpaid, but to have a strong English centre midfielder is pretty useful, especially when we have the coefficient for European football, and you have to have so many homegrown players as well. But 50 million again is pretty high, but to be honest, for a young English player, it's probably what you have to pay in real life, to be honest. And then Dennis Zakaria from Gladbach cost 32.5 million. A real player once again, CDM. It's worth 49 million now. Only played 8 games, scored 1 goal, but of course did buy him in January. And they brought 2 defensive midfielders in January. Obviously had an issue early season by the looks of it. Right, what else happened though? They sold Nemanja Matic to Leicester for 6 million. Maximiliano Gomez. When did they buy him? I don't remember that. They might have been brought him a while ago by the looks of it, first season. For 19 million. Suso to Crystal Palace. I mean, they paid 50 million for him, had him for 2 seasons, and sold him to Crystal Palace for 25 million. It's pretty insane, isn't it? Hugo Mallow to Shakhtar for 26.5 million. And then Dean Henderson to Watford for 13.25. That's not bad. Pretty good goalkeeper, actually. I can't help but feel that this is quite a defining season. He's had such a good time for the past 4 years, but this season only coming second in the Premiership. But these transfers shock me. I mean, Golovin is a good player, but 121 million is incredibly high. Lewis Cook, 50 million, again, pretty high. And this guy in Major looks pretty good, but Zakaria, again, could be quite an expensive deal. And to sell Sousa when he paid 50 million for half the price to Watford the season after, Crystal Palace, should I say, the season after, seems odd. It really does. But let's have a look and see if we get any luck in any of the cups instead. Right, so you can see off the bat it was a bit more difficult this season. So we've got Benfica. This is the confused. We had this in the Marco Rose one, didn't we? Because of the World Cup, everything goes really messy. Right, so we have Benfica, Napoli, and Rostov in the Champions League. Draw with Benfica, draw with Napoli. Beat Rostov. That hopefully should be enough to put them through, but you never know. And where's the EFL Cup games then? I haven't seen the EFL Cup. Oh, there it is. The EFL Cup third round, knocked out the Spurs in the third round. FA Cup then 2-1 win against Millwall. They beat Napoli 4-0. That would definitely put them through then. FA Cup 2-0 against Bolton in the fourth round as well. Shakhtar in the knockout stages. They beat Barnsley 1-0 in the FA Cup fifth round. Beat Shakhtar. They beat Man City in the FA Cup sixth round. Beat Spurs in the FA Cup semi-final. They knocked Porto out of the Champions League quarterfinals. Semi-finals. They beat Barcelona 4-1. So they're in the final of the FA Cup and the final of the Champions League. This could really hold the season together. FA Cup they won. They beat Stoke 3-1 in the final. Champions League they won. There we go. Well, there's me moaning. He came second in the Premiership. Some pretty overpriced transfers in the market, but it worked for him. Only second in the Premiership, but he won the FA Cup and he won the Champions League. So that would be great. That would really overshadow Manchester City. If Manchester City went to win the league that well, then Man United went and won the FA Cup and the Champions League. That'd be a real Mickey take, I think, out of Man City. Man City as well, but beaten in the final by Man United 3-1. Goals from Munir and 2 from Christian Pavon as well, who's still doing pretty well. Not amazingly statted, don't get me wrong, but 79 games, 9 goals. Maybe he needs to put a few more goals into his account, considering 2 of those were in the Champions League final, but still looking pretty good. There we go. That's the end of a pretty good season then, to be honest with you. Very, very good season. Right, let's get to the end of season number 6 and see if we can get the league back. And it looks like Manchester City have regained their championship, but only by a single point. Man United a lot closer this year. 88 points to Man City's 89. Arsenal up in 3rd. Spurs 4th. Chelsea 5th. And Liverpool in 6th place. With Bournemouth getting the best of the rest spot in that 7th position. Right. Let's have a look at transfers. Hopefully they spent the money a little bit better this season. And that's the wrong one. This is the one we're looking at. So right, £264 million spent. That's quite a big amount. Let's see how we get on then. Danny Ceballos. He's a pretty good player actually, I think, and cover quite a lot of positions. 24 games, 3 goals. Worth 69 million now. They paid 86 for him. Longlet, the centre back, probably is a pretty good deal that actually. 27 games, 2 goals. Actually wanted already. And he paid 43 million for that. That's not bad at all. Subasic on a free transfer. I mean, yeah. I should imagine he was just there to cover that position for a season by the looks of it. It looks that way, doesn't it? Fabio Silva, £80 million of this young Portuguese striker. 8 goals in 18. That's not bad for a 21-year-old. I think this guy's got a big future ahead of him by the looks of it. Aaron Martin from Mainz. Spanish left back, 27-year-old. Only got 11 games. I think we brought him in January. That's probably why, end of January. And finally, Paul Stewart from Celtic for 25 million. I can only imagine, yes, he is a regen player. He is a left back as well. Got pretty good mental attributes and physical. Needs to really work on these technical attributes, so they're pretty low for a 22-year-old. Did get 6 games on the main team. Maybe out for loan this year. He's worth 26 million though, apparently. That's pretty impressive. Sale-wise, they made 76 million. They sold Eric Bailey to Lyon for 29 million. Lucas Digne went to Barcelona for 46.5. That was it then, really, wasn't it? This guy called Mengi went to Preston for 325k. Apart from that, Diego Dallo left on a free transfer at Udinese. Joel Pereira went to West Brom on a free transfer as well. Interesting then, a lot of money spent. And it got them back closer to the title, didn't it, really? Right, let's see what else happened this season then. So, they beat Man City in the Community Shield, and they beat Spurs in the Europa Cup. Right, they got Inter Milan, Dortmund and Anderlecht. Pretty tricky group, but they won the first 3 games. Won the first 4 games, I can see from here. EFL Cup third round, they won as well. And the 4th round, they won. Again, they won all 6 Champions League games. I mean, look at this run from here, look. The 20th of September, they won every game. That's a lot of games to win in a row. Involving beating Guangzhou Evergrande 6-0 and then Racing Club 3-0 in the World FIFA Cup final. They beat Stoke in the EFL Cup quarterfinals as well. FA Cup third round, they won against Notts Forest. They beat Man City 4-1 away at Man City, wow, in the first leg of the EFL Cup semi-finals. And they drew 1-1 in the second leg. They won Leicester 3-1 in the FA Cup 4th round. And they lost to Monaco. So they beat Liverpool in the EFL Cup final. So they won the EFL Cup. They lost to Monaco 3-1 the first round. They got knocked out by Liverpool in the FA Cup. Did they turn it around against Monaco? They did turn it around against Monaco. So they come from 3-1 down to win 4-3 on aggregate. That's pretty good. Bayern Munich, they won 3-0 against Bayern Munich in the quarterfinals. They won 4-2 on aggregate against PSG. Then they lost in the Champions League final to Arsenal. What? Wow. Champions League final again, though. You can't moan at Champions League final. But losing 3-1 to Arsenal is disappointing, to say the least. I mean, Moussa Dembele hat-trick. Wow. That's pretty insane, isn't it, really? It's worth 60 million now. They paid 31.5 million for him, and he's been an absolute star for them so far. But Arsenal getting a 3-1 win in the Champions League final. That's insane. Really is. There we go, then. So that's the end of season number 6. Let's give Howe another season, see how he gets on. And here we go. It looks like midway through the season. It was the 30th. It was actually just after we... Oh, that's annoying, isn't it? Just after the last time I saw you, he left on the 31st of July on his own account. By the looks of it, he left as a manager, walked away, and took on the Spurs job instead. That's pretty interesting. So he left Man United to join Spurs. If we look at the landmarks... Or competition to be the one, wouldn't it? Look at his run here with Man United. So... I want actually landmarks. Are these winners? There we go, winners. That's what we want to see. So, he won the Premier League, Carabao Cup, Premier League, Champions League, Community Shield, Super Cup, World Cup, Premier League, Champions League, Community Shield, Super Cup, World Cup, Premier League, Community Shield, FA Cup, Champions League, Community Shield, UEFA Super Cup, World Cup, and Carabao Cup. He won the Champions League 3 out of his 6 years in charge at Manchester United. That's insane. I would take that every single day of the week. And he also won the Premiership 4 years on the trot as well, which is absolutely crazy as well. It looks like he'd be a fantastic manager for Man United, but of course this is just a simulation. However, this game has been very accurate in previous simulations that I've done. Not saying this is going to happen in real life, but if it does, I will be a very, very, very happy chappy indeed. So let's have a quick look and see how they did without him and who the new manager is. The new manager is Zinedine Zidane. That's interesting because our next episode is Zinedine Zidane. So that's interesting, the fact that he's come in. Looks like the club's been brought as well now by a Welsh consortium. That's interesting. Mike Phelan has left. And Neil Wood is the new assistant manager. Okay. Wow, he's very good. Look at them stats. Man management motivating 2020. That's really good. He looks like a very good manager, doesn't he? So, of course, Zidane's had a whole season now. Let's see how he got on. This has got nothing to do with anything. This is just having a quick look. He won the Premiership by 12 clear points. 31 wins out of his 38 games is pretty good. What was his transfers like then? He had a chance to do all the other stuff. He got in Anton Mikhailovic from Krasnodar. Looks pretty good. Never heard of him before, but he looks like a real player, doesn't he? Maybe one of these ones that got random potentials. Juan Diego Ismodes who is a Peruvian goalkeeper. He's a regen. 775, you can't moan at that. Thauvin, he's pretty good actually, isn't he? He's moved now to Burnley by the looks of it. Was that on loan? I don't know. He's on loan at Burnley, yeah. 15 games, 4 goals, paid 36 million for him. Jadon Sancho, that's a good deal. Very good deal. Duda, Polish left midfield, again a regen player. Got no idea how good he actually is. And Marcus Valeriano, and again another regen player. Looks actually really good, this one. Really good mental attributes anyway. Got 16 caps for Brazil, he can't be too bad. So he's not changed major things, has he really? And he won the Premiership, so we can't moan too much. But there we go, that is what Foot Manager believes Eddie Howe's career will be like. He'll stay there for 6 years, and then he'll walk away for the Spurs job. Yeah, don't think I'd be too happy if he did that either. Won the Champions League 3 times. He won everything at least once, didn't he? He won the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the Community Shield, the Champions League, the Premiership, the Champion... I don't know, I've said them all, haven't I? Either way, that's pretty good. So that is it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Of course, if you have, then please do hit a like and, of course, subscribe if you want to see some more. Like I said, our next video in this playlist will be on Zinedine Zidane, and that'll be in a few days' time, so I hope to see you all there. I've been Shabby Gamer. Thank you much for watching. I'll see you very, very soon for our next episode in the series of who should be the next Manchester United manager in real life thingy simulations. Yeah, that was a terrible ending. Anyway, I'm going. Bye.